Tarbiyah is to develop a human being from the inside out. We are missing that on a large scale. We have a lot of activism, mashallah. We're doing work. We have a lot of maybe leadership, but there's something missing from the inside out. And I will explain that as roots. We are missing deep roots. We are missing foundation. And what happens if you don't have roots and you don't have foundation is like what would happen to a tree that doesn't have roots and the wind blows. And the wind will blow. And as you mentioned, for example, you are tested when you go to university. You could be at an Islamic school. You could be a hafiz. But if you do not actually have those deep roots beyond the memorization and beyond the surface, as soon as you go to university and you are tested, you cannot handle that test. And a lot of people fail once they are hit with that storm. The first time they're tested, they're uprooted. And that happens when you don't have that deep training. When you don't have that internal training. This is what the Prophet ﷺ did. There is a very profound hadith where Aisha radiallahu anha says that if the first verses to be revealed were, do not commit zina, do not commit fornication, people would have said, we will never leave fornication. And unfortunately, a lot of our youth are saying stuff like that. We will never leave it because it's too hard. If the first verses to be revealed were, do not drink alcohol, the people would have said, and by the way, these people, we're talking about companions, right? We're not talking about us people. We're talking about companions. She said that if the first verses were telling them to give up these things, they would have said, we will never give up alcohol. And this is the hikmah, the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet ﷺ, that the first verses were about training a human being from the inside out. They were not about rules. If you look at the way the Quran came down, the Meccan verses by and large were not about fiqh. The Meccan verses were not about rules. They were not about give up usury or riba, give up alcohol, give up zina. No. They were doing something else. They were building the character of the people. They were building that strong foundation and those roots so that later on, when the rules came down, sami'na wa ata'na, the people said, we hear and we obey. That is how you can withstand the storms. But you have to have deep roots. And that, I believe, is what we are missing in our youth today. We have a vacuum in the roots. We have a vacuum in the foundation that maybe we had a few generations ago and we're missing right now. And that's why an organization like this is so important. Because it focuses on building those roots, not just the leaves of the tree, right? We can become active, we can decorate the tree. But if you don't have roots, you will not withstand the storms, and the storms will come. And the storms will they will be even more intense the more position you are given. The more leadership, the more power you are given. The more you are blessed, the more you are tested. And so we have to train our young people to be able to withstand these tests. And how does that happen? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. This is imperative. Allah says that He does not change the condition of a people until they change what is inside themselves. The Prophet ﷺ tells us in a very profound hadith. Many of us know this hadith. He talks about haram is clear and halal is clear. And between them are these things called mutashabihat, or the doubtful matters. I'm sure everyone learned this in Sunday school or Islamic school. But the hadith doesn't end there. By the way, I personally, mind was blown when I realized the hadith doesn't end there. The hadith continues, and it says, Inna fil jasadi mudgha. Indeed, in the body there is a lump of flesh. إِذَا صَلُحَتْ صَلَحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ. If that lump of flesh is set right, then the whole body will be set right. وَإِذَا فَسَدَتْ فَسَدَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ. And if it is corrupted, then the entire body is corrupted. ألا وهي القلب. Indeed, it is the heart. Why does the Prophet ﷺ begin the hadith, the discussion, talking about rules, and then ends with talking about the heart? And the answer is that when you fix the heart, you fix the actions. When the heart is healthy, then the actions will be healthy. Then it will become easier to follow the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it will become easier to withstand the storms that will definitely face you. Listen to this. When Luqman, we're told, when he was advising his son, he had a lot of wisdoms that we are told about in the Quran, in Surah Luqman. One of the advice that he gave his son is this amr bil ma'ruf nahi anil munkar, right? This commanding what is good, to calling people for what is good and forbidding what is bad. It's basically not just living in a cave, but also going out and speaking out against injustice, about calling people to what's right, about what Yasmin did when you mess with an Egyptian woman, yeah? So what happened there is that she took a stand, right? That action is amr bil ma'ruf nahi anil munkar. That's what that's called. But look at what he says. He says to his son that he advises his son, amr bil ma'ruf wanha anil munkar wasbir ala ma asabak. So in the same discussion, he says, call people to what is good, forbid what is evil, and have sabr for what will come your way. There is a lesson here. And that is that when you take a stand, when you take a position of leadership, you will be tested. And therefore, immediately after telling him that, he says, have sabr on what will face you, what will come your way. We won't be able to have that sabr if we don't have those roots, if we don't have that foundation. And that foundation starts inside, in the training, the tarbiyah that we give to our children and to those that we are raising.